Welcome back to Resonant Truth, and as we have arrived in this recording, we hope you do the same, because when you get to listen to something as this and really absorb the depth that is on offer, then the transformation can begin. Now, we have recently come out of the MindBodySpirit Festival. Wonderful experience, right, my love?
Oh, best one yet.
Best one yet. 50% chance of it going great, and we really got it. So it was wonderful. And what we witnessed, it's such a social experiment as well, but what we witnessed there really shaped tonight's conversation, because as per usual, like we found in this festival, that people are searching, they are curious, they're looking for something to scratch that deeper itch.
They come for their past life reading, or they come for their psychic medium session.
It's like wanting to find out a fun fact on someone's profile. It's like, I was this and I was that, and it's, some treat it like a fact-finding mission. Other people want answers to an immediate burning issue, but then there are some who, we meet that just want something deeper. But all of them carried a similar belief. We did upwards of 40 readings just on the weekend, and that excludes reports that we generated after for those who wanted to go deeper with soul contracts, and we'll speak to that. But there was a pattern that the consensus, or the general consensus in the collective, is that spirit is somewhere outside of themselves. And, I've come from this, false belief system that it's over there and I'm over here. And the two are not one, which is a false construct.
It's a pretty big one, though.
That's right. And we'll come back to soul contracts, but we're going to explore this fallacy and sit together with this and the truth behind it through the soul contract modality, through QHHT, and our own lived experience of what it means to reconnect to the part of you that never left. So imagine you're sitting around a campfire with us, a small circle, beautiful sage and incense burning in the background.
It's a huge fire pit of sage.
Yes. Oh, that's cleansing. And nothing to prove, but everything to recall. So this is Resonant Truth, and we're going very deep within. Now, Daniel, tell us what your first glance of the festival, because you did a lot more readings this time as well.
Well, that depends where you want to start with that. I mean, there was so many, like we even at times didn't even have a chance to eat or go to the bathroom. There was just so many people coming and just seeking answers. A lot of people were I noticed a lot of curiosity, and because we had your template report there, we were using that to help describe it to anyone who didn't really understand the model and wanted to make sure that they actually felt comfortable with it. But a lot of people were just coming in with this energy of I don't know, you think you know who you are until you go to the MindBodySpirit Festival and get a reading done, but the model of soul contracts that we're using is usually it's far deeper than curiosity, and it's also pretty confronting too. So I found a lot of readings tended to have people that started to get a bit startled with the depth and the revelations that came up, because it touched pain points they didn't realize they had, or it revealed skills that they just hadn't used properly, or they took advantage of them for lesser gains than they could have. That was my general sort of consensus, but especially what you were saying before, spirit is external, was the single biggest one. Is that because in the model you've got three primary areas: the physical triangle of their external life, which most people know, that's the family you're born into and the skills that you can do as a human and ultimately what you want to achieve. But there's two other parts as well: the spiritual triangle and then the soul destiny. Now, people love the soul destiny because it's, why am I ultimately here? What do I want to take away from this life? But describing the spiritual triangle was a lot more difficult to people because it was something it didn't click or connect very easily. It's something that they need to go reflect on, because understanding that for them is the inner architecture of their being is one that's never really been questioned. And so to have it presented is yeah, it was quite interesting as a social experiment, as you said, just to go through and realize that most people don't really understand themselves as spirit at the MindBodySpirit Festival.
That's why we go with, we are the ones bringing spirit to the festival. Before we run away in the conversation, can you briefly explain the soul contract model?
So the history of it is a channeled work by Frank Alpar in the 1980s. And he worked with Hebrew mysticism very, very deeply. And he was able to make contact with the spirit of Moses and actually understand through one of the original Jewish mystical texts called the Sefer Yetzirah, or the Book of Creation, which actually predates and is the foundation for Kabbalah. If you've heard of that branch of Jewish mysticism, it's pretty common if you've delved into the esoteric world. But basically this model talks about how the 22 Hebrew letters of their alphabet they're actually divine frequencies and archetypes. And so with that, he was able to decode them in a model that he originally called the spiritual numerology of Moses. And then later, when the work was improved and refined through Nicholas Davignon and others as well, it became generally known as soul contracts or soul contract numerology, which already differs quite a lot from Pythagorean numerology, such as your life number and stuff through your birth name. It's more general to your personality, where this actually goes back into understanding the model in which your higher self created the causal body. We associate this with the sixth dimension, in which your soul creates a vessel for you to come down into the lower dimensions like Earth. And so with that, it as I mentioned before, it carries three primary dimensions to it. The first being the physical triangle of your external world, present from birth, playing out in the physical realm and externally. The second being the spiritual realm, about your own inner architecture. And then the soul destiny being ultimately what your soul wants to extract out of that incarnation in the material world. And well, the material and also the lower spiritual dimensions as well.
You were channeling, but you can continue, but you were channeling and the higher self came through. And it was saying how, it is the higher self that built the Merkaba.
Yes.
It is the higher self that built this vehicle for the soul to come in. Yeah. And
can I clarify on that as well?
Yeah, of course.
The model itself actually uses what gets flattened in the charts into a Star of David, which, if you know anything about Judaism, the Star of David is an enormous symbol. But it's actually a model for the 3D Merkaba, which translates to the light body. And that is your causal body, in which you actually descend down into the lower dimensions like we are here in this life. And so it actually picks various archetypal frequencies of the Hebrew letters that carry their own divine resonance with a specific flavor of experience itself. And so we pick those that play out across three different dimensions. One being the karma, both physical and spiritual. These are, think of them as open lines, open stories that we're here to work through and close off. So these are things that serve against us in life. Then the second is our talents, our skill set that we're naturally good at. And while karma is easy to see as the arc of going, well, this serves negatively against me and I have to turn it into something positive. The thing with talents is many don't actually tap into it, specifically in the spiritual triangle. They don't understand what they're good at to the extent that it can be, or they misuse their talents, or even don't activate them to the extent that they can. And then the last one is the goals in both physical and spiritual as well. And that is frequencies and skill sets that you don't have, that you want to build stronger. Or if you have it paired, like myself, I have a 6/6 in my talents and in my goals. I'm good at it, but I actually want to continue to grow it. And I've been told that by my higher self in QHHT, that my soul is not about broadening like a 20-2 frequency, for example, but it's about honing in and becoming sharper and more refined in a very specific area.
Can I have a reading? I'm sold. No, it's not about being sold. It's providing a language to our reality and why certain things, or why I experience certain patterns, and these are my challenges. I think we've mentioned it on the show before. This is your lot in life.
Yep.
And why we wanted to, hone in on the topic of that spirit is out there, because we would do the physical reading and people can relate to it, because it's either childhood patterns, it has to do with their maternal and paternal impactors.
Finding the examples is easy because everyone knows how to look outside of themselves.
Yeah. And then when we started talking about spiritual powers, that's when things started to get a little bit
a spiritual
fuzzy.
Triangle in general.
Or just, spirit generally. It's like there is much more to you that is still wanting to come online, and that is quite hard to comprehend. And some frequencies, of course, we've got 11 twos. I have it spiritually. It makes it just that little bit more difficult as well to pick something up in comparison to other positions. But
some frequencies in certain positions, particularly if they're very grounded and earthly, having them in a spiritual position is tough. For example, an 8-8, which is all about the physical realm, boundaries and separation, having that in the spiritual karma, for example, is one that is detrimental, because you won't want to assimilate with anyone in society.
Yeah.
You'll push everyone away, just to try and hold some sense of keeping your spiritual nature within, rather than understanding it needs to be grounded.
And what came to mind was, you've mentioned this, when people, not even with spirit, but when people diss or do not want to engage with any sort of divination, what are they really doing? They are denying an aspect of themselves by calling it woo, by, how ridiculous is it that, the planets control my life? No, I'm the one. Like, they use this language, which they talk down on these.
The planets is referring to like astrology, human design, and other ones,
it's
not
like,
this one.
No, but just generally. And what it's all pointing in the direction of that, people are trying to distance themselves from themselves.
Yeah.
Whether it's through dissing something. Even I found a little spot for me on Threads. It's actually, there's a lot of discourse happening there. Do not go in unprotected, of course. And shots,
to any online open space.
Yeah, shots do get fired. And there was someone who was talking about how silly it is that, these divination tools like astrology, gene keys, whatever the language is used in business. It's so woo-woo and out there. And a lot of astrologers, human design practitioners, like a lot of practitioners came to defense. And this person just could not comprehend it. But what are they really denying? Whether it's their business or themselves, they are denying themselves a part of themselves and keeping it as at arm distance, and continuing the narrative that spirit is something out there, elsewhere, separate. I'm me, and that does not have anything to do with spirit.
Well, this also goes into, a very big belief that we hold of separation. And the lie of separation is one that's so entrenched across every area of our lives that, and even the spiritual nature going within is really to try and connect back to the unity that is the infinite universe as well. And that it's too big to confront for some people, or I'd say most people, because to acknowledge that means you have to mature a lot, you have to take responsibility, you have to have integrity, that there's no lies you can ever get away with, and it's too radical of a concept. But on the plus side, though, when you can align yourself with it energetically, then what comes about is a type of authenticity and transformation that you'll see the life coaches only talk about, but you actually feel it and become one with it, and you are these energies, these archetypes, or whatever you're aligning to through this work. Maybe it's courageous or adventurous or it's disciplined. These are not just words on a page that I have to, New Year's coming up, I've got to become disciplined to lose weight for our next holiday. It's like, no, you are embodying the principle of discipline, and you can do that with any archetype.
Can you also, on these common buzzwords, there's a lot of talk in, whether it's leadership spaces or anything about responsibility. And Jocko Willink, I don't remember his Leaf. I don't remember his co-author, but Extreme Ownership. And that is about being 100% responsible for everything in your life. And then people, perceive, I myself was on, I'm going to be responsible. But all I was really, having this pseudo responsibility was a career, which was also on fire and not what I thought it was, panning out to be. But how does the false belief that spirit is out there absolve one of responsibility?
I mean, you see this particularly within religion. The way most people actually construct the notion of God, who is, you might say, the ultimate spirit, as being separate. This belief that we are separate is only at best half true, because we are one with everything that exists as well. And this is where we start diving into the mysticism. But understanding that things are either separate or unified is one that people need to understand, that dance by taking on the responsibility, that knowing that they're the one that can control that throttle. And the problem is that as we've lent into the concept of externalizing and seeing and leaning into the external world, like most people didn't connect as strongly as they could to their spiritual triangle, they've sharpened their tool to the external, and in a world that's become so large, externalized so much to, you think of consumer law or something like that. It's not their responsibility to do their due diligence. It's on businesses to just get the product right from the very start. And, a savvy consumer like we try to be, we'll shop around, we'll look at reviews, we'll check out competitors, not just for price, but also for reputation and such as well. And so really, I would say it's a lie that absolves responsibility, because there's too much leaning on the external focus and just neglecting the internal focus as well. Because it's important to have responsibility on the outside. In a court of law, we do need to assign fault to someone, usually external, if they've done wrong to us, and that's necessary. But when we can't understand how did we even get ourselves into a situation where basically you might find yourself in a court of law blaming or putting up someone else, for crimes or negligence or something like that, then you fail to understand where you didn't take responsibility. And
as we were talking about this episode, it was coming to the conclusion that externalizing spirit is the safest way to never meet it. People think that if I took that personally. No, it's people have this pseudo sense of safety, I guess, also in the physical triangle, speaking to the soul contract model. It's safe, it's known, it's, I've already lived through it and I've worked through this. And what it also takes to come into contact with your spiritual powers. Not just spiritual powers, but your spiritual triangle is...
your spiritual nature.
Yeah, it's not work that people want to do. And especially as we would refer to things like your talents being something that your soul already knows how to do. That's how I frame it, because we're so conditioned that if I need to learn something, I have to go through a framework, a model, and sometimes, yes, that is really helpful as well to build something in layers. But the soul already knows. It's already played this game. So even introducing the concept of past lives, that the soul has already been around, not just as Eleanor, and it will continue to be around, throws people off as well.
And why shouldn't it throw people off? I mean, most of the Western world, is working on Abrahamic religions, and even culturally, even the atheists don't realize they take for granted the privileges of an organized society based on Abrahamic faith. But reincarnation is one that's, it was Emperor Justinian that removed it from the Holy Bible around 550 AD, or should I say CE, sorry. We've spent a lot of time really working with this and understanding and integrating it, but for many who have shrunk themselves down to this life, you only live once. If you remember the YOLO phase going around, it's still something people live by. And so disrupting it's such a paradigm. It's a lifestyle and a paradigm to forget about your past lives, your higher self, that even mentioning it to people is one that we've even been told, it's like, oh, you believe in past lives? It's like, no, this is our work. This is our mission. And we've done enough sessions on each other now that we're intimately connected to our past life. They're not just someone else external living in another time in another place. It is us that we connect to in the present moment, and they become just as real as our lives right now. And that there is, even just telling people about it is sort of confronting enough. But imagine if, they were to sit there and actually consent to that experience themselves. I remember when I was trying to get certified, and there were people that were just not willing to even confront that part of themselves, even if they could mentally entertain the idea as a fun novelty to see, was I a witch burned at a stake, or was I a farmer somewhere, or just something boring.
And speaking to confrontation, when your higher self comes through, or even in QHHT, they speak in such a direct, precise way. It's of course loving, but it is...
And the way it loves is not necessarily the way you might consider love.
And, I get triggered sometimes because something is said so powerfully, so truthfully. And it's not, I'm not putting the onus on them. It's like, why am I triggered? Why does this bother me? Why am I denying this? Why am I behaving like this when something comes through?
I consider your higher self to speak like, I want to say like a middle-aged single woman. It's a bit cold, a little bit flat, but very, very hard. And there's no misinterpreting what you say. Where I think of someone like mine as almost robotic and surgical. I wouldn't say
it's not cold,
positive or negative, or cold.
Yeah, it doesn't have an inflection.
But it's just it feels so objective when it's coming through.
Very.
That's why I say it's surgical in its nature.
Well,
and I've had some that were like fun and playful, and it's like, oh wow, this is great, I'm enjoying this.
Absolutely.
But everyone's higher self also has a different personality of their own.
Yeah. And when they say something, like, there's nowhere to excuse, like, I'll try to come up with my defense. And just speaking to, maybe you've seen that meme on the internet, not you, but the listeners, like the one we've been using for quite some time, the chip holding the door together and the army people trying to break through the door. Like,
yeah, it was a raid on a house in the first in the first image, and you see them with the big bar ready to knock down the door, and then on the inside, the little hole is being held together by a little twisty.
Yeah, and that's sometimes the extent of my defense, because even in my defense, they disarm it so quickly from, of course, their higher perspective. Yeah. But it's like, but my this, but my that. It's like, it doesn't hold. And especially in QHHT, when one puts another under, we'll challenge as to why this or why that. And there is nowhere to run, there is nowhere to hide. Because it is a part of you that knows exactly why you're looping or why you're not doing X and whatnot. And
like, even with past lives, it's the confronting part with, if you've looked up near-death experiences, and people always talk about like the life review, or the chance to see their whole life, or their life flash before their eyes. It's like that memory is stored somewhere, and if you have to confront all of that, what will it mean? What will it really mean when there is nowhere else but to be present with what you have and have not done? And you have to sit with the feelings, the thoughts, and everything.
There's a deep remorse for the life that could have been as well. But that's on another QHHT.
Well, to those who don't acknowledge and...
Yeah. But also how, the spiritual triangle, or the spiritual dimension, is the architecture beneath the self. Like, everyone's out there, searching for, well, who am I going to be? As if, this is something you need to construct. And
a doctor, a lawyer, a banker.
That, or like...
It's just a job title.
or even how, I came from the conventional development space about how, okay, you want to be an entrepreneur, great. Now you have to mold your identity in order to fit that brief. So then you very, slippery behaviors start to come in, like not you, but like for me, it was the hustle and the grind and the sacrificing. It's normalized, but that's not who the soul is. That's not what the architecture of the soul is. Of course, there is, an ego that is here and, things to do in the world that's understandable to a certain extent. But again, it's finding that most people are not ready to confront it, and it's not always going to be pretty, and it disarms people's sense of self in such a strong way.
It's like that saying, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of this work and confronting our own spiritual essence, right? Even just our spiritual triangle is one that usually isn't fun in the first instance. It's a rude shock, because it shows you exactly how, when the hustle and that energy all started, all these frequencies, to align with that lifestyle, you have to invite these things that you might not like into yourself. And the spiritual triangle starts to reveal how that would happen, and how it has happened in both of our cases in different ways. And we can touch on that a bit more later.
But also, this spiritual realm is requiring people to look at their life as it is, that was built on parts of yourself that you refuse to meet. Because there is that, you may have heard the terminology, the dismantling, the collapse, the dark night of the soul and the like. Because when those parts want to come online, when they want to be heard, because, now's the time, or now it's safe, then that's going to, in most cases be a contrasting experience to everything that you thought as well. And that happened as well. Some people, I found in some cases that people went into, let's say they had a 5-5, which is about teaching. So they actually went into the teaching profession. But what they are teaching is something that is rote and antiquated, whereas they're actually meant to be spiritual teachers or something of the esoteric realm.
Yeah, because the 5-5 is one of the most abstract spiritual frequencies that exists in the model.
Yeah. So when I'm sitting here telling people that, it seems, not just because it's the etheric frequency, but so challenging to grasp. And then trying to bridge that between where they are now to building, or even getting to that point, just seems like a chasm. So it's easier to not do it and ignore its existence. But, does the calling get stronger and stronger for some people? It definitely does.
But that's where I've also noticed from people like in my own life who they haven't worked through their own soul contract chart. What happens is all the other frequencies that they don't get to, specifically in the goals and the later spiritual triangle, it all starts to creep down back into the basic frequencies, back into the karma, and puts pressure on all of them so they can grow back into supporting the rest of the chart. Otherwise nothing moves, and it almost becomes a life that's dead in the water. And there are lives that we've had even in QHHT that were like wasted.
Yeah, of course.
And that's very painful for the higher self. Or the part of you the spiritual part of you that still exists after you die. To confront that before you even reach a higher self. It's tough once you realize the lesson that was meant to be learned. And that's what models like this attempt to capture as deeply as possible. But this is ultimately where the work that we offer is about helping liberate people for themselves. It's not about us trying to just do the work for you, because again, that's externalizing. And it gets back to forgetting the truth of you is that all of this is within.
Well, that's where QHHT starts to come in, is where, we've had people that we talk about, it's like, oh, I could never do that. And it's like, why? And when they're saying that, what are they really saying is that they refuse, they're refusing to certain levels.
Because they're scared.
Yeah.
Why else?
Of course.
They don't want to know what comes up. And I remember when I was training, some of my early sessions had some very gentle souls come in, and they carried a little bit of fear, but I did my best to distill it, and they try to be as courageous as possible. And that was some of the most beautiful sessions and therapeutic sessions that I've ever had. And even months later when I saw them, they were still elated and riding on cloud 9 from that experience, because they didn't know just how amazing an experience like that could be.
Because it's exposing. When you're sitting there and you've just cracked open your subconscious, not anything will come out. The subconscious or the higher self will know exactly what needs to be said and how, but it is showing people maybe a level of ignorance that, maybe ignorance isn't the right word, but they didn't have awareness of it. And that's okay. It is a process. It comes up layer by layer. But even just entertaining the fact that the higher self could, be here. And they always sign off with the same thing. Like, we're always here.
Mm-hmm.
And we just lose that connection. And again, as your higher self says, getting lost in the source. I like that. So
it is. I mean, how many people are just living their life? They're trying to pay their mortgage, raise their kids, keep their job.
Yeah.
And it's like, what sort of life is that really? Are you growing? Are you learning? Or are you just surviving?
Now, I want to bring it to integration, which is also like, everything up until now we've been talking to is the excavation. It's the awareness. It's the excavation. It's bringing things to the surface. And it's fun to know that, oh, wow, I have the ability to be a clairvoyant or one of the clairs. But some people have the skill developed or online to certain degrees from childhood. Maybe they had a supportive environment or they held onto that connection. But then there are some people where, like us, no, spiritual skill per se, and needing to build everything, up from, I want to say ground zero. We didn't even have a foundation for it, but below baseline. And there is just so much of the work. This is the great work to make that happen. And bringing it to the body, it's like we want the body to hold so much energy. And it just gets exhausted. I remember I had a Kundalini session and she brought it up to the heart. And I remember this was when we were still best friends. I called you and I couldn't explain like how much energy the legs could hold and move through. It was just like high voltage, everything happening all at once. But the body could definitely not carry that for, majority of the day. So even much of the work we're doing now is to be fit for purpose.
Yeah.
For spiritual communion
it's
for the long term.
The body is the vessel for the.
It's the home of the soul.
And the soul, yeah.
And as I didn't channel like you, but through automatic writing, that if we treat the body like the Ritz-Carlton or a beautiful hotel, the soul will be more inclined to stay than if it's but if it's holed up in some cheap motel and it's not safe and there's no power and the water's all off. So that is part of the integration work. It's like, we want this, we need to be physically fit to hold the connection. Even when you hold the connection for so long, when we do tarot readings, it's taxing. It's
everyone comes out of a QHHT session like hungry and tired.
Yeah, and their third eye, like all their eyes hurt.
Yeah.
Like the head is just splitting.
And to anyone who doesn't know, the use of the third eye, the pineal gland, carries the same rods and cones as your physical eyes. So a lot of people actually come out, with all eyes hurting just because of how much they've worked those muscles to hold that spiritual connection as well. But it's funny that like we spoke about fit for purpose and such as well, because I remember my first profoundly mystical experience, and what was it? It was realizing that my soul, my spirit, my whole connection to it was just it was a cosmic flat battery. It wasn't that I'd misused it or anything. There's just no juice in the engine. And so what did we do? We filled me up again, and since then done maintenance work and such as well. But since that experience, holding the connection it's quite easy. And even in my own chart, my own spiritual triangle, I have 3 5s. I have the 5 spiritual goals, but a 14-5 spiritual talents. And so once I was able to actually bridge the connection and receive communication from spirit, channeling that through has actually been very easy for me.
And this is, some would say it's a gift, but it's a built capacity.
Yeah, everyone has a capacity to be a bodybuilder, but not everyone has the frame of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And the integration work is sometimes boring. Do we like doing it all the time? No. And do we do it all the time? Also no.
Sometimes I'm channeling and I need to go to the bathroom, or I'm tired and I'm just like, let me go to sleep.
Yeah. But there's, certain stamina needed. And then that's just on the physical front. But these, whatever comes up from these sessions, readings, whatever it is that strikes a very deep chord, does require change. And that is, we've spoken about what it has been like for us to dismantle so much of our old lives and stuff that I didn't even know was playing out.
But you're not just talking about change, you're talking about alchemy.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally transmuting the nature of your own, conscious being, your soul, your spirit, and your body, all at the same time. That is what alchemy truly is. And that's what we've done. And still doing.
Yeah.
We've still got a lot way to go.
And if people are interested in just learning more about soul contracts, you can go to our website, truthofyou.com.au, and you'll see soul contracts in the gateway section. And none of this is to, say these models are beyond anyone or better than. This isn't about, shaming anyone into you haven't done it. I've been told that I may know a lot, but there is a significant amount that I don't know. It's like, of course, this isn't to say that you should have done it by now or need to or whatnot, but really looking at what is the grasp, what is the hold that's not allowing you to look into the spirit realm. What is it that has, left you feeling disconnected? And for me, it's a false belief that I think it came through in the last QHHT was, I don't want to say it's too hard, but it's sort of like it's too hard, or it's over there, or it's not for me. It was also a level of, separation between me and spirit. But when we're channeling, when we're, in that state, when we're asking deeper questions to ourselves, that is the work.
Yeah. And mine is, it came through in my chart, is that 7/7 spiritual karma. Is one of just betrayal in past lives or isolation in past lives that I'm here to overcome and open up my heart again and learn to feel and channel my own emotions. And that keeping that closed off is exactly what keeps spirit hard, keeps it hard for spirit to access me and work through me and work as me, because that is that removal of separation and externalization.
I wanted to share this before and I lost it, but it was a mystical experience I had in late July or early August. And it was the most intimate experience I've had with the cosmos. It was right there, which is right here, which is me. And I was trying to, in that point, I wanted to ask the question of, how do I manifest? It's like, no, silly. Manifestation from this point doesn't exist because you are it. You are. It's so hard to explain sometimes, but manifestation is it's over there. It's manifestation doesn't exist at this level.
It's over there and I want to bring it closer to me, like pulling on a rope.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not true. It's right here. There is no such thing at that level of manifestation when you are that connected to spirit, because spirit will move through you.
Yeah.
It's already done at that level. And that was such a mind-boggling experience, because people think that I'll just manifest the next thing. And yes, you do need to take right action and put your intention towards things, but it's not manifestation as to how it's been mass exported.
You're really conflating doing and being.
Yeah.
And when you understand that you are multidimensional, when you tap into these higher planes of our own nature, then you understand that reality itself is a giant manifestation. And the deeper you can tap into that, the more power you have down here to manifest the life that you want. And that's what's happening right now and everywhere.
Just got heart energies moving around. So we'll look at wrapping up. And if there is in the future any topic that you would love us to speak to, do get in touch. We are Truth of You. And I'm the Eleanor Masha on Instagram.
And I'm the Daniel Darman.
also on Instagram. But this avoidance of, again, not just a spiritual triangle or parts of it, is we fear the depth, because it is scary sometimes going out into the deep ocean when you have no equipment and you can't even swim, using myself as an example. But it's also because this kind of truth that comes through doesn't negotiate with your ego. It's not trying to soften, these loose perceptions and masks that we have.
And can I say on that as well, like when you say the ocean, it's funny because I've actually been watching Let's Plays of a video game called Subnautica. And it's a game where you land on an ocean planet as the only survivor, essentially. And just confronting a planet that's all ocean is very, very terrifying. Everyone has thalassophobia once you're in a situation like that. But even understanding that, put yourself into a character in a video game and your own primal fears outside of the video game are triggered. And that's exactly what the soul does. It incarnates into the video game of 3D physical manifestation in order to have its own experiences as well, and to grow and overcome. But understanding that a lot of this is why I love video games over watching movies, because you're in the driver's seat in a video game. You're the one who has to take control and responsibility. But it's also a very good reflection to see what triggers within you in a quote-unquote safe environment. It's just a game. It's all fun and games until, it hits a pain point. And then you realize, oh shit, like it's not just pixels on a screen. This is a raw feeling. This is a raw like a fear, worry. Yeah. It's a response that is deeply programmed in you as well.
And just to wrap up as well, it's, when we're all, everyone's out here looking for answers, whether it's walking around a festival or doom scrolling or just devouring any piece of content and seeking, reaching out to absolutely anything, anywhere. It's searching outside the house for the plans that are drawn on the inside. And it's like, if there's a house in a vast acre of land, it's like, I will look everywhere but inside the house. Doesn't mean you have the key.
Sounding pretty paradoxical though, and that's what's so unintuitive about the game of reality itself. I still remember when I was channeling through, and it was like games within games, and reality it's paradoxes within paradoxes, that if you were to resolve them all, there'd be nothing left except just raw existence itself. But that's also what, we're inviting people to do, is to understand that even your own spiritual nature paradoxically is you. It always was you. What actually makes the physical, the ego you that you think you are, what makes that more real than the spirit and the internal elements of your own awareness less real? Just because you can touch it? This is just all energy that you've condensed down into a very dense form, that you've constructed the concept of touch and physicality to begin with. When you can put that aside and really, this is the whole point of meditation and doing deeper inner work, you can understand the deeper and the multidimensional layers to yourself, to begin to understand how you're manifesting, how life is happening to you, and how to even know how to navigate it. Because we think that there is no rule book for life, but the rule book is you. You have to study yourself and practice and learn, and you have to play, and you have to suffer, and you have to everything that you could possibly imagine you have to do to figure out who and what you are in every sense of the word. Because what else is there to do? And that's why we're here today, to talk about the spiritual side, because people have given far too much time to their external, far too little time to their spiritual. And then they romanticize their soul as just completely separate from all of that as well. But understand that you can play around with all of these dimensions, all equally, and all of them are just as real. If you can even begin to believe that, that's really your own initiation.
Mic drop. So wonderfully and generously said. I think we'll leave it there on that perfect ending. As always, if you love what you're listening to, do share it with a soul who's also searching for that which matters the most, and that is the truth of you, because
you're too big to be this small.